our 2013 Consumer Task Force question and answer webinar. Just a few logistical things before we get started. We do have everyone on mute, but there is a question box that's part of your GoToWebinar panel where you should be able to write in any questions as they come up. So please feel free as we're going through just kind of a brief 5 to 10 minute presentation on the general Baby's First Test program. If any questions come up that you'd like to have answered, please go ahead, type those in that box, and they'll be sent to me so that I can see those. I see a couple people still arriving. I know that sometimes technology can get the best of all of us, so I just want to give 2 more minutes to let people go ahead and get on the line and then get everything set up. But I do also want to be very respectful of your time, so we won't wait more than about 2 minutes. All right, thanks. All right. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Elizabeth Stark. I'm the Maternal and Child Health Program Manager with Genetic Alliance, and I'm the one who basically runs the Baby's First Test Consumer Task Force. So I'm thrilled that all of you have joined us this morning. I'm going to give you a brief overview of some of the programs that we have going on, both at Genetic Alliance and Baby's First Test. Talk a little bit about our 2012 Task Force, some of the activities they were involved in, where you can find more information about those individuals. Our general plan for the 2013 task force, kind of review some recent questions I've received by email already, and then we'll dive into any questions from individuals on the line that you may have. If you do have a question, please feel free anytime during the presentation to type that into the question box on the GoToMeeting panel, and I'll be able to see those, and we'll get to them in just a few minutes. Genetic Alliance is a 26-year-old health-focused nonprofit. Our goal is to improve everyone's health through genetics. We've had a wonderful history that started off by bringing together a number of different disease advocacy organizations, and through that we've created some great partnerships and really just kind of seen the value of bringing the public perspective to the genetics conversation and making sure that people who are actually using these services are being well represented. It's our hope that we're going to continue to do that through methods like the Consumer Task Force. Genetic Alliance was awarded a HRSA, a Health Resources and Services Administration grant, to create the clearinghouse, and that clearinghouse is basically a way for us to spread newborn screening information. Baby's First Test was created by GA, by Genetic Alliance, to hold that newborn screening education center. So on babiesfirsttest.org, we have information for parents, providers, researchers, just about anyone who has a stake in newborn screening. When we created the Consumer Task Force, the idea was to bring that, again, that public perspective to the conversation, and also to help promote newborn screening education and awareness. We think newborn screening is just so important to the health of babies, and we want to make sure that everyone has a chance to learn about that and really understand what's going on so they can make the best choice for themselves and their families. The 2012 Consumer Task Force, we relaunched the task force in 2012, and we've really been met with some great success. We have 10 really dynamic members from across the U.S., sprinkled everywhere in between, rural, urban, you name it. 8 of the 10 members have had children who were affected in one way or another by newborn screening. And we had all of these members come visit us in Washington, D.C. to attend the Secretary's Advisory Committee on Heritable Disorders in Newborns and Children. And that's really a large meeting where a lot of policy decisions get made at a national level. And so it was really important for us to have all these consumers attend and discuss with the panel to provide public comment on what they felt was important, what they wanted to be looked into, and really, again, provide that public stance. The task force members were also featured in a short video that we filmed there on site, and they're currently working on outreach projects. If you go to babiesfirstdeath.org Consumer Task Force page, there's actually a link to the 2012 Consumer Task Force members with short bios, links to blog posts that they've written, links to organizations they're affiliated with, where you can get a good idea of what's going on with the task force members. The video that they created is also up on that website, and I highly suggest taking a minute just to take a look at it. It's pretty impressive and powerful, and so we're excited to share the message that the task force members have been cultivating over the past year. This year, the 2013 task force is going to look very similar. In the beginning, we start with a training phase, and that's everything from inviting Dr. Sarah Copeland from the Health Resources and Services Administration. She's the branch chief right now, to kind of provide a national perspective and talk about the Secretary's Advisory Committee that she oversees, a lot of the ins and outs of the national stage. We've invited state representatives to talk to everything from what goes on to the lab, what legislative issues they're facing, kind of what's going on, how things are decided at a national or state level. We do social media training. We know that right now there's just a large audience that uses social media, Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, and so talking about how we can craft our message and really get it out there to reach the widest audience. The training phase is great because it not only helps increase newborn screening awareness, but that's really something that can be taken back to individual organizations, kind of lessons learned. How do you work with policy members? How do you make connections, and who should you be talking to discuss various aspects? So the training phase, we think, is really important, kind of building that base. The second part is project planning, and what we ask all task force members to do is really think about an audience that they have some sort of relationship with, that they would like to see newborn screening education reach. And that can be really general. It can be all, rural moms, or it can be really specific, as in an example from this year's task force, the immigrant Chinese population in Boston. So, really anyone who you feel a connection with that you think would benefit from additional newborn screening is a great audience, and that's who we want to kind of help you develop a little project planning around. Some examples of projects that this year's members are doing is one mom has created, a cute little foot cutout that has information about newborn screening, and she's delivering it to all the OB offices in her area because she thinks that education really needs to start with the OB, and from her personal experience, doesn't believe that those OBs necessarily have the resources to have the conversations right now. So she's just kind of going in, introducing herself, meeting with people who have time, and bringing them information to kind of help set that up. We also have some wonderful mentors who've been really successful in advocating in the newborn screening arena, reaching out to different populations who will kind of help guide that project. They can talk to individual members about what they're planning. Is this feasible? What barriers might you be facing? What can you really do to make that a more successful project? And so we think that mentoring piece is something that we really want to build up over the next year. The final piece is the project implementation, and that's really kind of going out in the community, increasing awareness of newborn screening, and kind of seeing what happens. We have some good technical assistance here at Genetic Alliance to help people measure the impact of their projects. You know, we can look at analytics and see, did this drive traffic to a specific page? If you think everyone should be going to their state page and you're located in Arkansas, did we see a bump in Arkansas's traffic? Do we feel like more people are getting that information based on specific projects? That's something that we hear a lot. As I mentioned, we are grant funded, you know, very graciously from the Health Resources and Service Administration, and a big piece of these projects is that we're looking for something that's measurable. Something we hear over and over again, that in order to keep having funding for these projects, that we need to be measuring something. And that's something that we don't expect anyone to come in having any knowledge about, that we're more than happy to kind of guide you through and talk about. And those mentors that I mentioned will come in handy there. We would also like all of our task force members to attend the May Secretary's Advisory Committee meeting here in Washington, D.C. We will, of course, cover airfare, hotel, all expenses associated with that. We just think it's really important to have, you know, pretty early on in the process, a chance for everyone to get together, talk, discuss their experiences, and then, you know, provide input to the Secretary's Advisory Committee. We really want that public voice there again. There'll be more information on that, details available, but that's just something we like to throw out there. All the rest of the meetings are webinars similar to this one, where we can, you know, have PowerPoints. Everyone's not muted, so everyone can talk and share ideas. But that's the one in-person event that we'd really like everyone to attend. The last one is involvement with social media. This doesn't mean that you have to be an expert or that you have to have, you know, any sort of background in this. We just want people to kind of think about how they're connecting with others and see if social media might be a good way to start that. Some recent questions that I've gotten by email have really focused on eligibility. We want to reiterate that anyone with a strong interest in newborn screening and a desire to increase awareness is eligible. You know, we think that that can look, you know, a lot of different ways. We've had, you know, in the past, parents whose children have, you know, been affected greatly by newborn screening because their condition was detected. They started on a different diet, and that kid is just very typically developing, happy, healthy, kind of a wonderful success story. We've also had parents whose children, you know, were not detected by newborn screening and maybe could have, and it really kind of lit that passion under them that they want to make sure that this isn't something that happens to anyone else. I think it'd be great to hear from parents who had a typical newborn screen, nothing dramatic one way or another, but just think it's important and want everyone else to know what can happen. Anything like that, just a real strong awareness and commitment to increasing knowledge about newborn screening. The question about group eligibility, we're not looking for, you know, a group leader representing the X community necessarily, but individual members of groups are certainly eligible. You know, I think it's important to have a wide range of conditions represented, a wide range of experiences represented, a wide range of geographic locations, rural, urban, you name it. We want to make this, you know, a pretty diverse task force. And so anyone in those different groups is certainly eligible. And that is, those are the main questions that I have received so far. I want to invite you to go ahead and share any questions that have come up. I'm going to pull up my question box and see if anyone has already asked some, but please feel free to go ahead and type some of those in, and then I will answer them here, and I will also be posting them on Baby's First Test on the Consumer Task Force page after the end of the webinar. So if anything comes up, please feel free to go ahead and send those over. All right, it looks like we might have a quiet group today. Let's see, it looked like someone had clicked that they had a question box, but I didn't actually see one. Let's see. Great question. Can you give me a sense of the time commitment in terms of likely hours per month? It really depends on individuals' level of interest. The basic requirement is going to be about an hour to a 90-minute webinar phone meeting each month. And then it kind of depends on how engaged you are, with social media. If you want to, throw out a post on Facebook saying, hey, check this out. Do you know anything about this? That's definitely a time commitment that you can have. Or, for example, when we ask everyone to come to May, that's a 2-day time commitment. I would say that it's probably no more than 5, maybe 7 hours a month, but it really varies based on individuals' commitments. We understand that the vast majority of people who are involved with our task force are parents. Some are parents of children with special needs, and we want to be really respectful of that time. So it kind of depends on everyone's individual level and how active they want to be. Great question, thank you. All right. Are there any perceived conflicts of interest that make an individual eligible or ineligible? I don't, I can't think of any off the top of my head. We love working with all groups, with all organizations, so I can't think of any perceived conflicts of interest off the top of my head. That doesn't mean necessarily that there aren't any. I might be a little more hesitant about, maybe large companies wanting to join. I think if an individual has a personal experience and wants to join for that reason, that's it. But we're not looking for any large company sponsorship or anything like that. But nothing's really coming to me, right out of the bat that would make something ineligible. Good question. Does it cost money to join the task force? Absolutely not. The task force is grant funded from the Health Resources and Services Administration, and so there is a small stipend that individuals who are on the task force receive to kind of help with their project implementation. If you need to make photocopies, anything like that, there is a $1,500 stipend that goes to individuals who are on the task force, but it does not cost members anything. And then we would, of course, pay to help bring everyone to DC. I want to make sure that money isn't a reason that anyone feels like they couldn't be involved. We'll cover flight, hotel, meals, that kind of stuff for the meeting when people come. But there is no cost to individual task force members. All right, it looks like there might be one more person coming on. What about, biobanks? I'm going to have to look into if there's a conflict of interest with biobanks. I don't know for sure, but I can look into that. I think, again, really it's going to be what is the individual person's message, what is their goal, and if their goal is to promote an outside company, that may not be the best fit. But if their goal is to increase newborn screening awareness, that might be a good fit. So I think it would depend kind of situationally on what that individual wants to do. Let's see. Can you give us some other examples of projects implemented by the task force? That's a great question. So the task force is in process. This is the first year we've actually done this project implementation portion. And so this is the first year that they're doing it. They're kind of in the middle of it. So I can't tell you if they're going to continue on. I really hope so. We've created some wonderful relationships with individuals on the task force, and we're looking for ways to keep them involved with the project, because it's just been such a pleasure to work with these really dedicated and active parents. Some other examples, someone went into their local hospital and they're talking with the education class, the newborn education class that parents take before they give birth, kind of sharing their story, almost like a testimonial of why newborn screening is important. That's been really successful. Another mom started started a Facebook group dedicated towards teen moms. And so she's really trying, teen moms have a lot going on outside of thinking about, newborn screening. And so it's really a place for them to kind of share their ideas and thoughts and provide information about newborn screening. Because, some more seasoned moms who've had a few children, they can oftentimes think a little bit farther ahead about what else should be going on, and it's just kind of a place for moms to share their experiences. Someone else is reaching out to some state departments of health to let them know about this resource and to let them know that they think it's great and that it should be on the state website so that parents who are going to the state website can find out more about general newborn screening. So those are kind of some of the other projects that are going on. One mom happens to also be a nurse, and she's working on creating a newborn screening, kind of like a continuing education PowerPoint for other nurses so that they can stay up to date with the latest, whether that's the addition of pulse oximetry for critical congenital heart disease or the availability of testing for SCID or severe combined immunodeficiency, whatever that is, just kind of sharing the latest information. So those are some of the projects that are going on right now, and I certainly do hope they'll continue on in the future. Yes, the only travel is in May to Washington, D.C. I don't have the dates in front of me right now. I want to say it's the third weekend, but I see your name and who asked that, and I can definitely forward that on to you, as well as post it on the website. But it's the May Secretary's Advisory Committee on Heritable Disorders in Newborns and Children meeting. It's typically a Thursday, Friday meeting. So if people are local, sometimes they come in Thursday morning. If people are traveling from out of town, we typically fly them in Wednesday night, and then the meeting ends by Friday afternoon. And so they typically fly out Friday evening. So it's a time commitment. Most members stayed Wednesday night and Thursday night in the hotel with us, and then flew out Friday afternoon. But I can definitely get those dates to you shortly. All right, any other questions? It looks like someone may be coming up with something now. All right, well, I'm going to stay on the line for a few more minutes in case anyone has any other questions. I want to thank you all for taking the time to talk with us. I really appreciate you all coming on the line. Any questions that you guys have, I want you to feel free to email me, Elizabeth@babiesfirsttest.org, or there's my phone number, 202-966-5557, extension 207. I'm happy to talk with you guys further about, requirements, anything else that comes up. So I'll stay on the line for a few more minutes, and thank you to everyone who joined us today. I hope you have a great week. Oh, it looks like there's another question coming through. Are there certain parts of the country where the needs are greatest in terms of education? Quite frankly, I think everyone needs more education, just to be really honest. I feel like some people know that newborn screening is happening, but a real understanding that it's a state-based program, that state panels vary, that people have a kind of a choice in how much or how little their children are screened for. I think that there's a lot we can do in terms of the entire U.S. I think that's a great question. I hope that one day we can say, there's just this one little tiny community that could use a little more education, but right now it's pretty much everyone. So the more we can get the word out there, the better. All right, it looks like that's kind of the end of the questions. Again, please, anything else comes up, or if we hang up and a couple days later you're like, oh, I wish I'd asked, please feel free to email me. I'll be going ahead and posting a lot of these questions on the Baby's First Test website. Um, so any that I get by email, I'll be sure to include in that list as well. I look forward to receiving the applications from everyone on the phone call. Last year it was definitely the case. We wish we could have had a much larger task force because there's so many good ideas and really excited people out there. But any questions, please feel free to let me know. And thanks again for joining us today. Okay, if anyone is still on the line, can we run project ideas by me prior to the application? Yeah, I don't see why not. I'd love to hear from you guys. So if there's something that you're thinking about that you would like to, absolutely let me know. All right, thanks everyone. Have a great day.